Now, have you ever noticed how some people around the word sis, bro, or auntie, like you've been tight with them for years? And it might seem harmless for most people. But for those of us who are autistic, who often take words at face value, this is actually a tactic of overfamiliarity and isn't really a genuine connection. And it's oftentimes a move that is quite manipulative. So, as I was saying, this tactic of overfamiliarity isn't always about genuine connection. Sometimes it's a calculated move just to gain access to what you have without earning it, without building a relationship with you. And there's a psychology behind it when you think about it. There's a psychology behind why people do it, because this is not just a random behavior. Human beings are wired to seek belonging and access to resources. But instead of building real trust and taking time, some people shortcut their way into spaces they haven't been invited to. They fast track relationships using language that signals closeness, because our brains naturally associate things that are familiar with safety and trust. And this is a tactic of manipulation, whether the person is conscious about it or doing it unintentionally. They are trying to get you to lower your guard. Think about workplaces that call all their employees family. They're not doing it because they care. They're doing it so you become emotionally invested beyond what's expected in a professional setting. They want you to stay late, coming early. They want you to put the business above everything else. And why do they want this? Why do they call you family when you're an employee? Because if you feel like family, you're going to tolerate more, you're going to work harder, you're going to accept worse treatment. But the moment you're sick or no longer useful, you're going to realize that family was just a corporate strategy. The same thing applies in personal relationships when people call you sis or bro, because it skips the work of actually building real trust. It's the same psychological hack to access your time, your resources, and maybe your network. Now, why do I know this? It's because I've learned it the hard way. I've seen it, I've lived it, and I don't like it. As an autistic person, I like things that are literal. I take words literally. I like when people are who they say they are, do the things they say they're going to do. So when people use language that implies closeness, why don't I like it? Because I used to assume they meant it. But over time, I realized that many people were not calling me sis out of love. They were using it to bypass code to something they wanted from me. Now, even in families, this happens. You will hear, but we're family. Don't tell people that. We're family. Whenever someone wants you to break your back and overextend yourself, even your parents, even though they had you, you didn't have them. And the moment you can't provide, the moment you're sick, that same family acts like you're a stranger because you can't do for them anymore the things they need. I've also seen it happen in Black communities and brown communities. People using terms like auntie or queen to gain access to resources, mentorship, or opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't get. Remember when Ava DuVernay called this out? She said, "Don't call me auntie if I don't know you." Now, some people misunderstood that and said, "Oh, she's just afraid of aging." That had nothing to do with it. Ava is fabulous. It had everything to do with protecting her boundaries. Ava is a Black woman who has worked her way up in a male-dominated, white-dominated industry. She noticed that people, especially in professional spaces, use auntie not out of respect, but as a shortcut to familiarity and access. They weren't acknowledging her work. They were trying to pull her into a role she never agreed to nor consented to. And this is exactly how overfamiliarity works. Instead of people spending the time and earning a relationship with you, they try to name drop their way in. Interesting. Now you're probably thinking, but how can one protect themselves from this manipulation? Well, how can you guard yourself from anything? Gut instinct. Look at people, watch their intent, not what they say. Just because someone calls you sis doesn't mean they're your sister. Ask yourself, has this person shown up for me consistently like I would expect a sister to do? Have they earned my trust? What is their intention? And if you don't know, they're not your sis. If the words feel premature, pause and ask them directly, what is it you're looking for? That one question alone cuts through a lot of nonsense. My boundaries are about who gets access to my energy, my time, and my generosity. If someone has not put in the time and the work to earn that closeness to me, I don't give them a free pass just because they're using familiar language. I want you to reinforce that in yourself and train it. If someone's being indirect and you like direct, be direct. Navigating relationships, whether friendships, workplaces, or even your own family, requires discernment of the highest degree. Not everyone who calls you family, even if you're blood, has the best interests of yours at heart. But you must have your best interests at heart. As someone who's had to learn this the hard way, I can tell you, language means nothing if actions do not match. If someone says A, but they're doing Z, that is what we call a liar. So take your time. Let people earn proximity to you. And if someone tries to fast track their way into your life, they have a reason to do that. Hit the brakes. Know that you set that table of yours in your life, and not everyone deserves a seat at your table. And that's okay. There'll be more lessons to come. Stay tuned.